Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, post-match. Carlos Alcaraz versus Felix Auger-Aliassime, Indian Wells 2023 quarterfinals. If you're not here for spoilers, click off the video in 3, 2, 1. Carlos Alcaraz returns to the Indian Wells semifinal, where last year he lost to Rafael Nadal. This year he will face Jannik Sinner. He beats FAA 6-4, 6-4. His first ever win against the Canadian. In fact, coming into this matchup, he trailed in the head-to-head 3-0. US Open 2021 was a retirement. But he had never broken serve. He had never even broken Felix's serve. They played at Davis Cup indoor hardcourt last year. They played in Basel last year, indoor hardcourt. And on that note, before I actually get going in this match analysis, I do want to just say I'm impressed by this Felix run, even though it ends here in the quarterfinals. And at face value, I expect Felix to make big quarterfinals, but not really here, not at Indian Wells, because these conditions really do stink for him. All of his titles are on indoor hardcourt. His best surface statistically is grass. The faster, the better. The lower bouncing, the better. He likes a slick court, not a gritty court. This doesn't work for him because his serve is largely kind of taken away as an overwhelming weapon on these Indian Wells hard courts. And as a result, I had him on upset alert and wasn't expecting him to beat Tommy Paul. And he did. He saved 6 match points, but he beat Tommy Paul. And I thought it was a really admirable performance by Felix because even in that Paul match, he had to win rallies against Tommy, who's very, very tough to win baseline rallies against. The serve did not carry him through that match. It can't at Indian Wells. The conditions just don't allow for that. So it's been good. It's been impressive. And, he wasn't having a very good season. So this was the best showing of FAA's 2023 as far as I'm concerned. And I think he's set up pretty well heading into Miami, which I do think suits him quite a bit better. I think in Miami, although it's not the quickest, it does fare much better for servers overall. And Indian Wells, it's like Isner does well at Indian Wells, but it's because of his kick serve. And I'll get into this later. Felix doesn't even have that serve. He hits a slice serve. So it's nightmarish conditions for him. I'm impressed. And by the way, great performance against Alcaraz here. He played pretty much as well as he can play. This was a high quality match. Lots of entertaining stuff. I thought it was maybe Alcaraz's best performance of the year against a top player. Sure, he was good against Nori at Buenos Aires, but this was probably the best I've seen out of Alcaraz as well. So it was high quality. Carlitos was incredible. Let's get into this match analysis. So the first thing I want to point out is I'll talk about the first serve dynamic and I'll talk about the second serve dynamic. Starting with the first serve, there's a 15 mile per hour difference in average first serve speed between FAA and Alcaraz. And while that number might be a little bit skewed just by the fact that sometimes Alcaraz hits a kick serve on the first and Felix will never do that, I still think it does represent the difference in firepower that these two have on serve. Yet Alcaraz was 11 percentage points higher on first serve points won. Carlos winning 81%. Felix being at 70%. 81% is super, super high number in these conditions. So where did Alcaraz build that edge? I don't think it was about free points. I don't think it was so much about aces, service winners, or even really return quality. I think a lot of it was about how do you maintain the lead in the rally? You get your +1. You're, trying to be aggressive on the +1. Maybe Alcaraz hit more neutralizing returns than Felix, but I thought both of them hit a fair amount of neutralizing returns. I think the biggest difference is when you have the lead in the rally, are you able to maintain it on serve? And as the returner, are you able to get back to level? Are you able to neutralize? And I thought that Alcaraz was able to maintain the advantage more often than Felix because of his balance offensively. And when I say balance, I mean better when he has to hit a first ball backhand, better at mixing in the drop shot, better at coming forward. The forehands, well, they're both great. I'll say it's equal. The forehands are the same, but around the edges, when you have to do a little bit extra, Alcaraz is better. And then, so that's how Alcaraz finds the edge on his serve by maintaining the lead. And then on return, it's simple. It's the superhuman defense that was on display. So getting into more detail on this, the goal against Felix is always to make him hit a first ball backhand. And I felt it was pretty impressive how often Alcaraz was able to do this. Very impressive, dare I say. You look at the second set at Love All when Alcaraz broke serve there. Return into the backhand corner to force an error straight away off the first ball. At 4-all in the second set, which was arguably the most important break of serve in the match, Alcaraz did it 3 points in a row. It was advantage in for Felix. Alcaraz forced another error deep into the backhand corner for Felix. FAA was actually looking to hit a runaround forehand, but got tied up. He couldn't get around it because the return was of high quality into his backhand side, and he couldn't get his feet in position. So he made the error. At deuce, it was a second serve. Alcaraz got the return of the backhand, got an approach shot on the very next ball, and then hit a forehand drop volley winner. And then at add out on break point, Alcaraz got the return to the backhand once again, and then on the very next ball, hit a backhand cross court that was so precise, so deep, that it forced the error. So 3 points in a row, return goes to the backhand. That's really hard to do against Felix's serve, and it puts you in a terrific position to succeed. Now, Felix tries to do the same exact thing, but when Felix gets the return of the Alcaraz backhand, it simply isn't as big of an advantage. Now, I also want to talk about the break of serve that Alcaraz got in the first set at 2-all. In this case, Alcaraz did get a couple of returns to the Felix backhand. What was unbelievable about this 2-all game, it was a miraculous return game by Alcaraz, because on the two occasions that stick in my head, it might not have been every time, but twice in this game, Alcaraz got the return of Felix's backhand, and FAA hit a really solid, aggressive backhand down the line. Very precise and early backhand down the line. And on one of the points, Alcaraz basically should have lost the point 3 times and just somehow turned defense into offense. I tweeted it out at Gill_Gross. You can see that I tweeted out this point because it was a mind-blowing point. And then on break point, same thing, return to the Felix backhand. FAA hits a beautiful backhand down the line approach, and Alcaraz just comes up with a slightly miraculous forehand cross-court passing shot winner. So you can't even say that Felix did anything wrong on these backhands, because he didn't, but it was just FAA's ability to steal points that really won him this break of serve in the second set, which I thought was of every single game in this match. That 2-all game in the first set was the most mind-blowing from Alcaraz, because FAA played pretty good service game there and still got broken. Even when the ball is not on Felix's backhand, the way Alcaraz is able to withstand FAA's forehand is completely unique to Carlos. Now, a lot of, again, the advantage that he was able to create in this match was good old-fashioned defense to offense with the speed and strength that he possesses. It was unbelievable in this match in particular, because when Felix, the thing is with Felix's forehand, if you look at the Hawkeye numbers, FAA hits it about as hard and spinny as anybody on tour, but he also hits it exceptionally early. And those two things in combination, it makes it so that, it's as potent and damaging as a forehand that exists. And the ability for Alcaraz to withstand FAA's aggressive forehands, make him play extra ones, and just cover them was insane in this match. FAA is one of the best speed to power combinations on tour, and Alcaraz, when he's sharing the court with Felix, he makes FAA's speed to power ratio, look inferior, which I don't know if there's anyone that FAA really plays on tour that actually makes that aspect of Felix's game look inferior, because the speed to power combo that, the Canadian has, it's a great strength really for him, but it's an even greater strength for Alcaraz. I want to talk about one more thing, which is a technical contrast. I alluded to it earlier on, the kick serve. For Alcaraz, it was a really good way to attack FAA's backhand return. Again, we're talking about a guy who has a much stronger side and a much weaker side. For FAA, it's the backhand. And I just thought the kick serve to Felix's backhand was very effective in producing those +1 attackable balls, which I talked about Alcaraz attacking so well. And, there's a nuance here, I believe. When the ball comes into Felix's backhand very straight through the hitting zone, I think Felix is able to hit it a little bit better because FAA has a very much kind of brushes up through the hitting zone. Very much brushes up through the hitting zone. I think that he struggles a lot more when the ball is on a more extreme trajectory. If he's playing it on the rise and the ball's moving up, or if he's playing on the fall and the ball is moving down, that's where I think his backhand falters more often from a timing perspective, and he doesn't catch the middle of the strings. But when the ball is coming in super straight, and again, on a lower bouncing court, this is going to happen more often, which is one of the reasons why I think Felix's backhand usually looks better on grass and slicker indoor hard courts. It's better when the ball's coming in straight. Alcaraz hitting that kick serve attacks that aspect of the FAA backhand. You either got to take it on the rise when the ball is kind of moving upward, or you can wait for it to drop and hit it on the fall, or it's above the shoulders. That's a problem as well. So I really loved Alcaraz's use of the kick serve in this match. Felix doesn't have a kick serve. Jim Courier, every time he calls an FAA match, he really hammers this home. And I've done a piece on this for Baseline Tennis, the YouTube channel, specifically focusing on Felix's kick serve in depth, or his lack thereof. But it is a problem for Felix in these conditions, especially. Not so much on an indoor hard court where he can hit 108-mile-per-hour second serves into the body and not double fault much because he's got perfect conditions, and it's still very hard to attack Felix's second serve. But in gritty conditions, there's a couple of issues. One, the serve doesn't really get to the righty backhand, and it's predictable. And it loses a lot of speed on a gritty court because it's a slice serve, and that's what happens to a slice serve on a gritty court. It loses a lot of speed. So, look, Felix had 6 double faults. He won 42% of his second serve points, which is, neither number is a very, very good one. On this court, especially, you want a kick serve. Alcaraz has a great one. He hit 2 double faults and won 59% of his second serve points. So, Alcaraz Sinner in the semifinal. I'm sure you guys are wondering if I stand by my pick. Here's all I'll say. With the way Alcaraz has looked, with the way he has played at this tournament, it is impossible to feel good about picking against him. I do not feel good about my prediction by any means. What I will say is, first, I'm not going to change it because whenever I change my picks mid-tournament, I was always right the first time, and I always change it into being wrong. That's what happens every time. So I'm standing by it. Sinner simply needs to be this more solid and more consistent player. I still feel that when it comes to this matchup, Alcaraz does have a little bit more juice in his game. I won't go any further than that. But I do think Sinner can limit the mistakes a little bit better than Carlos Alcaraz if the conditions are correct for that to happen for Yannick. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.